What is up, everyone? Chris Manning here from the Locked On Cavs podcast. Evan Dameral's with me. We have a special guest, Marissa McNeese. We're going to talk all about Cavs Bulls, which happened Saturday night in Cleveland. We're bringing you the Monday pod here on Sunday because that was a big game, and we're going to break it all down on today's show.
Cavs need a three. Sexton works on Irving, trying to get loose. He'll fire. Hey! Knocks it down! Ground. Here goes Okoro to the bucket, and oh my! Okoro throws it down. 10 seconds to go. Here comes Colin Sexton. Sexton chased by Hill. Off to Stevens. Oh my! 45 ticks to go. That shot is blocked by Nance.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Prince knocks down that Harden pass. Garland's there. Garland upstairs for Allen. Oh, look out!
There you go. That's called team ball right there.
All right, Locked On Cavs for Sunday, March 27th and Monday, March 28th. I'm Chris Manning. That's Evan Dameral. Today's show, as I mentioned at the top, we're joined by Marissa McNeese from the Chronicle Telegram and a bunch of other great places. Before we get into the show, some housekeeping notes. Want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Remember, we are free and available on all platforms. We are also brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. That's BetOnline, and that's where the game starts. Marissa, let's get into the big picture takeaway of this game. The Cavs fall to the 7th seed in the East. They lose, again, 98-94. Had a dreadful offensive first half. Karis LeVert started. Again, they fall out of the top 6 in the East. What do you view as the big thing we got to look at here in terms of what went down Saturday night at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse?
I don't know. It's hard to look past anything other than, that offense was just so bad. And it can't be at this point in the season, right? Those are just things that just can't happen. You're playing the Bulls. It's a crucial point in the season. Every game counts. It seems like a stupid cliche to say, but the offense was so bad. And to me, I don't know, maybe it's a one-off, but a little concerning at this point in the season.
I think that's right. I think this is a team that shot 5% from 3 in the first half.
Yeah.
Tied. Evan pointed this out to us during the game. It was a tied their worst scoring half of the season with just 35 points in the first half. And they're able to make it competitive, but it's like, this is a game. You can't win NBA games against other teams in the playoff picture if you're going to shoot 5% from 3.5 and score 5 and score 35 points in half.
Chris,
what?
It's the fetishization of the three-pointer in JB Bickerstaff's eyes that is the downfall of this team.
Look, that ain't it. But
the term fetishization of the three-pointer just makes it seem like people have this just actual urge for players to shoot threes. And I'm just bro, I just want to watch competent basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, there is there are more players shooting threes and pull-up threes and things like that. That is a type of shot that has changed. But I think the offense for the Cavs right now just feels very difficult. And I think if you're looking at where we're at in the season, and I think looking at the team that is now 41-32, 7th in the East, 2 games behind the 5th seeded Bulls, a game behind the 6th seeded Raptors, this is just it's a hard thing for them to have to figure some of this out now. And we can be sympathetic, I think, because Jared Allen is out, because they played a lot of minutes, but Karis LeVert talked about this pretty openly. He's I missed a month, and it's this guy that was brought in to help your offense has a good part of this game, but also it's you're starting him in this crucial game, and it's just it doesn't totally work for you in the first half, and you're in this position where now you have 8 games left in the season, as do these other teams you're competing against, and you're just you're not behind the 8 ball anymore. It feels in terms of the tiebreaker with Toronto.
We're not behind the 3 ball either. It's okay.
But Evan, it feels to me you look at this and it's the Cavs are no longer. It doesn't feel with this loss, with Toronto playing the way they are, it doesn't feel like the Cavs are necessarily in the driver's seat to be a top 6 team right now. And I don't know if that feels dramatic to you or not, but that's kind of how the from putting my finger in the air and seeing where the wind is blowing, that's what it feels like to me.
I don't necessarily think it's dramatic per se. I think you're being realistic about it a little bit. I think maybe we look at the Lakers loss. That was a bad loss in general. Just LeBron put on a show and steamrolled the Cavs, and JB said the younger players are just kind of prisoners of the moment. I think if you look at the loss in Toronto, that was frustrating because they were saying all the right things heading into that game that, oh, we know we need to win this. We know the standings are a real thing. We're focused on X, Y, and Z. And then they just came out super flat against the Bulls. And you kind of notice the players questioning some of the offensive just play calling and decision making, especially down the stretch where they're trying to force Larry Market in post ups, or Karis LeVert calling that out, or Darius Garland saying like, "I don't know, I'd be kept to be."
Let's just say
but Darius Garland kept saying,
Karis LeVert post game was like, "Yeah, we played 5 out and we stopped trying to hunt mismatches inside, and the offense worked better." And I was like, yes, and that was notable to me. In what
Chris grabbed my shoulder when that happened. He got real excited. But
I did the DiCaprio meme. That's what I was. I was like, oh, he said the thing.
Goofball. But Darius also said that they were playing downhill in the first half, and that was really helping them just kind of build advantages and mismatches, and them just trying to get Kevin Love and Larry Marketing and Darius as well going from 3-point range just was fruitless for them. This is just a frustrating loss for Cleveland. I put in my notes this is their worst offensive performance of the season. I think that should include the second half against the Golden State Warriors back in November. Like, yes, that was ugly too. There's a lot of things that just went wrong in that game. I think that's when Darius first tweaked his backs, just to really put it in perspective of how long ago that was. But this was just an ugly game overall, and I think the Cavs kind of fell flat. I think Darius saying that they do feel the pressure from the standings really, and he then followed up saying like, we haven't been here before, so we don't really know how to handle that pressure. I really think speaks volumes of like just maybe the next levels in growth this Cavs team has. And again, I think it is disappointing to watch them go from top record in the Eastern Conference, slowly slide down to the play-in. I think they'll be fighting for the 6th seed down the stretch. We'll see how it goes, but it's going to be tough because Toronto is really hot right now. And I don't know. I'm just interested to see where it goes. If I'm not really ready to hit the panic button until, let's say, Monday on against Orlando, they look bad and they get the bricks beaten off them in that game. I'm like, all right, let's just slam this panic button real quick. If the Cavs are in trouble then.
Yeah, and like, here's my question. Like, just I'm wondering too. Like, you hear this a lot from JB, and we hear in these post games, like, okay, well, they're young, they're inexperienced at this level, and I get that. Obviously, that makes sense. But is there a point where you can't turn to that anymore? Or, I don't know. Maybe you still can, but it feels like we're constantly hearing that, and that's fine. But at what point do you then, I don't know, overcome that? Because they've been playing. I don't know. That's my question to you guys, because I don't know the answer.
That's a good question, but he kind of answered it too during the post game presser where he said these losses are tough, and in the moment it's frustrating. But he's like, you have to remain realistic about the season overall too. Like, I think it's just hard, and I think you're right though. Like, you kind of have to stop making these excuses after a while, and you can't like go out and say like, okay, we suck. Like, I don't know how else to put this, but. Yeah, because that's obviously just terrible optics from an organizational standpoint. But
the results speak for them, I think.
The results speak for themselves. I think we all know what we saw out there. And JB's trying to glean something positive from it because that's just kind of the guy he is. He will fall on his sword for his players and go up to bat for them every single time. And I think that's commendable, but it is frustrating because it does feel like they're making excuses for these losses too.
Yeah, I think we get to a point here where it's probably a little bit of both. It's probably a little bit of column A and column B. It is a team that is going through this for the first time, but it's also like ultimately, like, you are judged by wins and losses. You are judged by the results out there, and like the reality is that this is a team that is struggling right now. That looks a little out of sync right now. Marissa, I want to ask you this before we go into break. Karis LeVert, 36 minutes, 7 of 14 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3, 2 of 6 from the line. 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, and a steal for him, 17 points. What did you make of him in the starting lineup in his first start in a while for Cleveland, and his first game off of a minutes restriction?
I liked the minutes he was giving, particularly in the second half and late in that fourth quarter. It felt like, to me, some of those plays he was making, he was getting great feeds from Darius, of course, but like some of those plays I really felt like were a spark, and obviously the game doesn't go their way and they end up losing, but like they're in that game because he's making some of those plays, and obviously you need those valuable minutes from him at this point.
Evan, what'd you think?
It was a bit of a mixed bag. I know I was making faces. There were times he looked really, really bad, and then there's times he looked really, really sharp. Like, I'll just tease a little bit. My play of the night pick was when he hit that fader just in the paint, and just it was like a really weird shot, but like it looked great going in, and it got the Cavs within 6. And like Marissa said, he made shots down the stretch that kind of sparked the Cavs and kept them in this game to help them kind of keep building forward momentum. But it was just a case of too little, too late.
Yeah.
But you got the duality of Karis LeVert tonight too. Like I told Chris, like he's starting to remind me more and more of like it's Jordan Clarkson time, where like there's times he just dribbles up the ball and throws up a shot, or like throws an inadvertent pass to a teammate. Like I think he threw an inadvertent pass to Larry Markin at the top of the key, and
Yeah.
Nikola Vucevic just read it perfectly and just snagged it, and the Bulls got an easy fast break bucket off it. Like, it's just stuff like that where you're like, there's familiarity issues, and he'll like tell you, no, there aren't any. I've been watching film and working with the coaches. And I'm like, no, dude, there are familiarity issues. Like, the offense looked really bad to start the game because they're trying to get used to having him on the floor versus Lamar Stevens.
I mean, there's quite literally a possession we saw where like he like ventured over to the sideline. You could see him and JB like communicating, saying like, "Hey, do this." Like, the gears are still turning here, and like that is understandable because he's missed time, because like this only gets better with game film, because him and Darius don't have a chemistry yet, and like that just hasn't happened. And like,
to your point though, Chris, I don't mean to cut, but like that's I think why sort of too like I was semi encouraged. Like I mentioned, like him being the spark, and he did have some quality minutes. And, like that is, that is encouraging. Is like, okay, those gears are still turning. And he said, I missed a month, and you're like, oh well, yeah, of course. And so you're seeing that what the potential is. Obviously, there were some plays that were not so great, but then you are seeing those flashes of what could be once he gets more of that familiarity.
Notably, in the fourth quarter, played the whole fourth quarter, had 9 points, 4 of 7 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. Had an assist, had a turnover. That is more of what you'd want from Karis LeVert, I think. And it was him and Darius really in that fourth quarter. Darius had 14, Karis had 9, and it was like you had Mobley had a 3 and Markkanen had a 3, and like that was it. And it was those two guys as the two-headed kind of beast there, really contributing, really kind of leading things. So we're going to talk about him more after the break when we get into awards. That is MVP stat of the night, play of the night. But first, going to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar out there on the market. And look, they're covered in 100% chocolate. All of them are great. Evan, I think your favorite flavor is cookies and cream, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, it is my favorite. Sorry, I was just thinking about just how wonderful Built Bar is at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Like, I mean, look, we're podcasting. We're hungry. We need snacks. And they have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. What?
Evan Mobley's got to add some bulk. And my friend said we got to get him on the Finnegan meal plan. I think I'll just force feed Evan Mobley Built Bars 3 a meal.
You said.
No, my buddy texted me that. And then I told you my friend texted me that. Go ahead.
I've been hearing. Look, they're all about the taste. They make everything delicious first and then figure out how to make it taste better later. You're not going to go wrong with any of their great flavors. So go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, the promo code is LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Try great flavors like coconut almond, mint brownie, and much, much more. All right, Chris Manning here. Evan Dameral's with you. That's my co-host. And Marissa McNeese today is our special guest. Marissa, let's go to our awards. MVP, stat of the night, play of the night. Let's start with MVP. Do you have an MVP in this game? It kind of feels weird sometimes to give out most valuable player for a loss. I always have like a weird give and take with this, but do you have someone that stood out to you as a performer in this one?
I mean, I think we're probably all on the same page with this one, but how can it not be Darius Garland for just being like the one positive offensive part, of the Cavs game plan tonight? What did he have? 28 points. I mean, hard to argue with that. I got to give it to Darius with a very close runner-up to Onion, the Guardian hot dog, my very favorite hot dog, making an appearance tonight. A shout out to Onion. She is winning races, holding a purse. No other hot dog has to do that. So shout out to my girl.
It wasn't quite right that Andre Knott was not at this game, like to out of the ceiling
fight Mustard
and fight Mustard. Like, really didn't feel right that they put the Guardians out there and then like you didn't have him there.
Chris, would your brain have melted if you see Andre being lowered in on like a pulley system from the rafters to like swing at Mustard?
I would have loved it.
Or like Andre was inside the Moondog costume and he took off the head and brawled.
Evan, why are you giving them free ideas? That's like a really good idea. That's like a really good idea. That's among the smartest things I think I've ever heard. You said Darius's final stat line in this game, 28.
All right, everyone. We'll just enjoy Chris and Marissa. I'm out.
No. Wow. He just dipped
okay.
He dipped himself off. This is quite concerning. I hope he brought himself back. Great. 28 minutes for Darius, 44 minutes, another game above 40 minutes, 9 of 11 from the line. Did miss 2 free throws late, but it's just like you could see like the fatigue at that point. Just look set in, had 5 assists, only 2 turnovers, 6 rebounds for Darius. Just playing at a really high level, doing kind of everything for this team right now. Maybe like a little bit too much, but I think certainly don't. He is also my MVP pick. Evan, did you pick somebody different?
I mean, Darius is the obvious pick, but with now Cleveland having to host Brooklyn in the play-in tournament, I hope Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb is a regular listener. He seems like a progressive fellow who listens to good podcasts. Justin, my guy, just pass a vaccine mandate for the month of April, just in case Kyrie Irving comes to town, because I don't want the season to come to a very dramatic end because they have to host a second play-in game, or who knows how the standings go. But that's Darius is the right pick.
All right, let's move on to play of the night. Mine's very simple. Darius Garland gets inside. Lamar Stevens slides to the dunker spot. This is in, I believe, the second quarter, and the ball just goes out of bounds. The pass came in hot. It was just a little out of sync. Everything in this game up until they had that fourth quarter run, until that third quarter kind of burst of energy when they kind of made a push and we're within 4 points with under 4 minutes to go. Everything up until that window where they looked good felt very out of sync. And when Darius is not connecting with guys like that, it just feels off to me. And like that was one of those things where it's like, okay, like you're seeing all these little plays add up. It was very similar to the Toronto game in that sense, where a lot of stuff just didn't quite feel right in sync to me. So that is my play of the night. Marissa, your play of the night is what?
My play of the night, I know you two are a little bit more down on Karis LeVert than I am, but there was this play, and it's to your point, though. This is when it felt like things were going to turn for me, like for the Cavs. But Karis gets his feed from Darius underneath the dunks. I think it gets the Cavs within 3 at that point, and like the crowd was into it, and it felt like, okay, they're gonna pull this off somehow miraculously. And then obviously they don't. But to me, that play, I can like pinpoint it and say that really felt like that could have been the turning point one way or another.
I want to let's hit on the environment here for a second, because I think this is sort of important. It was like a little like dead for part of this game, right?
Yeah.
And then the crowd got very loud in the third and the fourth. Like it felt like a playoff atmosphere. I think you're right that the momentum seemed to be pushing that way. And then by the end of the game, when it just was dragging on, and then the Bulls went on like an 8-0 run in the fourth, then like the crowd emptied out. And then at the end of the game, it was like there was no one left, but the game was still technically competitive. It was like this very weird environment. Like I didn't have like, it was like one of those games where it's like you felt like the crowd was like waiting for a chance to buy in, and then like they got.
I got something to say about that.
Evan,
that's
what?
In my third set. The game was over. They're down 7 with less than 10 seconds to go. I'm like, all right, just gonna let them dribble out the clock. The Cavs play the foul game. It somehow works. Darius gets fouled on a 3. They review Evan Mobley to declare he wasn't fouled, and then the Cavs were realistically, like you said, down in this until the very end.
A JB Bickerstaff challenge, which has been something that has like never happened this year, and it's like this is the moment. And I was like, oh my god, we finally got it.
Yeah, that's it. That'll be my play of the night, because my play of the night pick was the Karis LeVert fader. But JB Bickerstaff finally winning a coach's challenge and actually using it, it's a win, because my mentions are set ablaze quite often on why didn't he challenge a non-call when you can't challenge non-calls. So, yeah, Chris, what's your Saturday night pick, Buckaroo, Mr. Numberman over there?
You call me a calculator, even though like I'm bad at math. All right, 5.6% from three in the first half. That's so
awful.
bad. That is like let's run this down. Let's pull this up. Here's the first half breakdown in terms of who shot what from 3. Okay. Darius Garland was 0 of 5. Evan Mobley was 0 of 1. Larry
Why are you laughing so evilly? Why do you find pleasure, not my misery?
Because this was just so bad that I just honestly can't believe.
Also, what a let up of a performance for like honoring the wall of honor that like vets and owners and everything else for the team. Like they completely laid a giant turd on the court and said, "All right, let's go celebrate the franchise legends." They could have used them.
Kevin Love was 0 of 4. J.D. Osman was 0 of 1. Karis LeVert was 0 of 2. Okoro didn't take any. Mobley was 0 of 1. Garland notably 0 of 5. Like it is really hard to just like be that bad from 3. And the Cavs are not like a good 3-point shooting team, but for Garland to be 0 of 5, for Markkanen to be 1 of 5, for Kevin to go 0 of 4, like it's just like, oh, like I as much as like some of the other stuff got better, and like I think LeVert was much better in the second half, and all of these things I think got better. It's just like I don't know how you win a game in 2022 when you have that bad. Like if they would have pulled this game off, I think every question I would have wanted to ask would have been like, so like how do you feel like you won a game where like your offense was just like abhorrent in the first half?
When the Cavs climbed back into this, if they won the game, they would have won this game with the second lowest 3-point percentage this season. And the Cavs own that record by hitting 15% of their threes and still winning a game once.
That's a really good stat. Evan, that would have been a really good stat of the night, and yet
they blew it. Speaking of threes, my stat of the night pick is Kevin Love joined LeBron James as the second Cavalier ever to hit 1,000 3-pointers. So even though there was a lack of them overall, Kevin Love hit just enough to add another franchise record to his accolades.
Before I talk about mine, sorry to take your hosting job, Chris, but I wanted to ask you guys about like this like horrific performance from three. Like, did you guys feel like they were getting bad looks? And, you know, I sort of had to tune in and out of these pressers at the end. So I don't know if they talked about it, but like some of them seemed okay. But there was a couple from Kevin in particular. Like, I feel like he was off balance on one foot. And I thought, like, is he just trying to get that 1,000? Like, I didn't know why they were taking some of those shots. It seemed like they were forcing.
I think
so. I think because Darius said that the Cavs are finding success driving downhill, whether it was him or Isaac, the Bulls kind of just formed a wall and walled them off a bit, and they threw it out to Kevin Love and Lauri Markkanen, who weren't fully in motion. I think Evan Mobley took a three during this game, and he was 1 of 2, but he made one of them. But like, Karis LeVert was drifting on the perimeter too. It's just they weren't taking him in within the confines of their offensive structure. And I think it's also like Kevin Love was heaving a little bit. Lauri Markkanen was heaving a little bit because I think the Cavs were pressing a little bit to try and get themselves rolling again because they were hoping like, okay, one of these shots will spark us and we'll just get going again.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is that I think this would be more notable, like going back on a rewatch and picking through some of this is I think the Cavs obviously have a thing where they do when they play Lamar and when they play Okoro and when they're on the floor together in particular. Those guys are kind of often just sitting in the corners. And the Cavs' dangerous three-point shooters are Darius bringing the ball up. It is Kevin Love on a wing. It is maybe he'll slide to the corner, but often on the wing. Markkanen is on the wing at the top of the key. I would. The Bulls have guards that were pressure. They had a good defensive scheme. I would be sort of curious to see if the way things played out, especially because LeVert's not a plus shooter either. He'll take catch and shoot threes, but he's like they were not freaking out when he gets the ball in his hands from that distance. Notably in this game, I think at one point this was Evan's play of the night. He had an open three and he dribbled into a lob.
Well, that wasn't my play of the night. That just melted my brain. Wide open three, dribbled in and drove to the basket and then just threw like an inadvertent lob to Lamar Stevens. It just broke down in spectacular fashion.
So like they're reluctant they're like a reluctant 3-pointing shooting team. And I wonder if like the Bulls to some degree were like pressuring the threes to the corner and then like the Cavs. So it's like Kevin Love gets, he's like, I got to shoot. Like I would wonder if there's some of that there. And I feel like it's one of those things that's hard for me to tell because I'm just not that good at it. Telling in person, like when I'm watching on TV and you watch it back, sometimes when it slows down, you get a second look at it, you can tell. I would wonder if that is part of the issue. But Marissa, your stat of the night is what?
My stat of the night is the Cavs matching their lowest offensive scoring output in a half with 35 points. Like you mentioned, Evan, I think, what was it against Golden State back in November? Just like really bad. And also like JB mentioned in his presser, then that just backs you in this corner. And now you have to play perfect against a good team for a whole second half. And they almost did, but maybe you score a couple more points and things go the other way. But that 35 points in the first half is my stat of the night.
Very bad.
It was suboptimal to say the least.
Suboptimal.
Well, it's like I think to put a pin on it, I would tell me if you guys disagree. I don't think the Cavs are a team that necessarily can overcome having to play perfect like that. It doesn't feel like, especially right now without Jarrett, without everything just kind of humming along the way it was earlier. It doesn't feel like they're a team that is built or even if they they fall back and all this stuff. It doesn't feel like they have it necessarily to play perfect in them to some degree. And like that's when you that becomes a very hard place to be, I think, when we get in there.
I absolutely agree. It's tough.
Agreed.
All right.
But Chris, do you think there are any moments that are noteworthy in this game?
What a segue, my boy. Today's episode is brought to you by NBA Top Shot, the officially licensed NFT of the NBA. Connect with a community of hundreds of thousands of NBA fans as a natural progression in fantasy sports, a way to upgrade your experience as an NBA fan. This is the future of what being an NBA fan looks like. It's part trading cards, part stock market for NBA and fantasy sports. Think of it as an online airline loyalty program for the NBA. People ask all the time, why would I buy a highlight when I can watch it on YouTube for free? It's not just about watching a highlight. It's about having an ownership stake in what's akin to a stock market for the NBA's greatest highlights. If you sign up for Top Shot today, it's the best way to start is by getting yourself a starter pack. You can pull an NFT of a superstar like LeBron or KD, or star rookies like Evan Mobley or Kate Cunningham for just $9. And if you didn't pull your favorite player from the starter pack, you can snag a moment from the marketplace that appeal to you. Challenges are also the best way to earn exclusive moment NFT rewards. Complete challenge to unlock exclusive moment NFTs You can treat Top Shot just like the best of daily fantasy sports. Investors include Michael Jordan and Kevin Durant, not to mention Will Smith, who's probably going to win an Oscar on Sunday. And there are also a lot of NBA players in the community like Tyrese Halliburton, Cole Anthony, and Harrison Barnes.
We're in the community too, Chris. That makes it even cooler.
That's true. Top Shot
Marissa's an avid Top Shot NFT collector as well.
That's right.
Really bold there, Evan. NBA Top Shot moments can give you access to events and be used in fantasy minigames on a regular basis. NBA Top Shot is the future of being an NBA fan. Own officially licensed rare NFTs of the greatest moments from NBA history today. Sign up at lockedon.nbatopshot.com. And Evan, now tell everyone about our friends at Rock Auto.
You're absolutely right. Today's episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it is now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Winder often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have access to computers with rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when using Rock Auto. And also, they're a family business serving do-it-yourselfers like yourself for over 20 years. Rock Auto's prices are reliably low and are for every customer. They have everything you need from brake lamps, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. So, if you're interested, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car, truck, or just whatever vehicle you drive. Right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box there that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliable low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Check them out today at rockauto.com.
All right, last segment. Evan Dammerel, Marissa Venus is here with us. Guys, I want to go to a weird place for a minute because we talked about this game a lot. We talked about the standings. We'll talk about the weeks to come here in a second. Can we just note that Dylan Windler showed up in this game for a minute? We gotta Dylan Windler still wearing the SpongeBob Kyries, right?
Those are collectors, man.
Yeah. He gets his first half minutes. He had a good defensive play in this game where he collects an Isaac Okoro block, pushes the ball up the floor, then he screens for Garland sort of instinctually and ends up getting the ball. When he gets swung back his way, he drives, gets to the free throw line. Then we fast forward to the second half. Cedi Osman, just fresh out of the doghouse, had a bad first half, then does not play a minute in the second half. Dylan Windler plays 9 minutes in the second half, was on the floor for part of the run where they came back. Just, I don't know what to make of this, right? I don't know what to I don't want to sit here and tell you that Dylan Windler is now a rotation piece, but I like that JB is still looking for alternatives at this point in the year. I don't hate that. And I think Windler, again, he's had a very up and down career, all of this stuff. He was in the G League for a while this year by his own choice. Kind of a little positive moment. I mean, this Dylan Windler, not looking overwhelmed in an NBA game for once.
No, I absolutely agree. I'm rooting for Dylan Windler to have success, and it's not with the Cavs, but like you said, Chris, before he made serious strides a few games ago when Cedi Osman was really deep into JB Bickerstaff's doghouse, he played really well, and he also had played more minutes in the G League than he had in the NBA that season. So it's fun to watch him succeed out there. I do wonder maybe if it's more of a matchup thing. I wonder how short the leash on Cedi Osman is, because like you said, he didn't play a minute in the second half.
It seems
taking my question, Evan.
It seems short. It seems short at this point.
That
was what I was going to ask you guys. How are we surprised at how short it seems, or not really? Yeah.
No, he did this last year too, where Cedi was not in the rotation for 5 or 6 games. And nobody really had the courage to ask. Then somebody finally asked. He said Cedi just isn't shooting well for us. And Mac Robinson actually asked about it. Why he played Dylan over Cedi. He's like, I wanted to see what Dylan could give us tonight because Cedi wasn't giving it to us. And he has a point. Cedi doesn't play defense. He has really happy feet when he plays defense. If he's not hitting threes and he's kind of just being careless with the basketball, I think it's easy to hit eject on him and maybe try something else.
Yeah,
that's fair.
He was at 37% from three in the year earlier in the year. He's now down to 35% on 8.9 attempts per game. Well, that feels a little messed up. That was his per 36. Thanks a lot, Best Bro.
He's gonna be gunning in the Jazz uniform soon.
He's taking 5.6 threes a game, 35%, 42.3% shooting from the field. I always feel like he is it feels like within the rotation that he is sort of the one thing that JB does not have a total grasp on in terms of his likes as a coach, right? He's always felt a little bit different. Windler doesn't even feel exactly to some degree a JB guy, just because I don't think we fully understand what Windler is or if he is anything really. But Jetty just feels like this like wild card agent, and it's worked a lot this year. But it feels like the last month has sort of it's not going to the moon anymore, so to speak.
Yeah, it's so noticeable. He was part of so many of those like huge. Then when the Cavs like made these mounting comebacks or whatever, like some of those games where I can picture being at and the crowd's into it, and there's big moments. Is like Jetty was a part of that, and that's obviously he's going to have lulls. It just feels like it's surprising to see how much he's sort of fallen off recently.
Yeah, there's always been peaks and valleys.
Would you like to see more minutes for Windler though?
I mean, I don't know why not, but
yeah,
this is a weird hypothetical to kind of ask though, because if Rajon Rondo comes back, if Jared Allen is back, I think they go back to playing big. You put LeVert back on the bench, you don't have to have this conversation anymore. Like Jetty will probably just get yanked from the rotation because Lamar Stevens has more than earned those reserve small forward, power forward, whatever you want to call them, minutes off JB's bench.
Well, so Marissa, let me ask you this. Let's say Rondo is healthy enough to play at some point in these last couple of games, and the Allen part of it will, he might be back. JB talked about it pregame. It seems like he's doing more stuff, but we don't have like a firm date on that yet. As far as the Rondo of it goes, do you think LeVert, like in the how he was used tonight, where him and Garland were staggered for a large chunk of this game. They both play together a ton, obviously, but Garland subs out for a couple minutes. He comes back in when LeVert comes out. Do you think that was like an effective use of him to maybe you could play another wing? Maybe you could play Windler as a bigger guy instead of maybe going to a Rondo or something like that. Does that to you click in any sort of way?
Let me maybe answer your question with another question, but like, I guess, is there a better way? And then are we don't know. And like, this was, let's try it this way. And maybe we like do some different things just as Caris LeVert gets more comfortable, like being back and getting more minutes.
It feels to me like whatever sticks is going to be something that just works, and it's going to be it might just be like a game by game. What is working in this particular game? Like, is there something that can get us a win Monday against Orlando? Is there something that can get them a win? If you're JB, you're saying, okay, can we get a win Monday in Orlando by doing this one thing? what works in the game? I'm going to ride that. I think he wrote like Evan Mobley was on the bench for much of this game because they have found some success with something that in that moment, and he went back to him, and it wasn't his fault, but things did unfurl that round, right? Like,
and like maybe if they don't shoot so poorly, like this is something that does end up working. It's just they're backed up like into a corner off the fact that they just shot the ball so badly.
Yeah, there's this. I think there's going to be just this small sample size.
Yeah,
finding stuff that works in game to game basis. Like look, there are 8 games left in the regular season. All of them are about being in a position to maybe not have to play Brooklyn in the play-in. That is what you're, I think, trying to avoid at this point. You're at all costs trying to like be whoever the 3 seed is right now. That's as the top of the. Like, it could be Boston right now, and Boston's really good. Boston might come out of the freaking East. They're that good. But like, you would rather have that than just one-off random game and then having to maybe beat, with the winner of Atlanta and Charlotte in the 9-10. Like, you'd much prefer just get to the 7-game series. They all kind of said that post game. They all didn't kind of talked around it in some ways, but it seems like that's sort of the through line as we go in here. And I think that leads us to the last thing for this week. Guys, they play Orlando Monday, Dallas Wednesday at home. Both those games are home. They play in Atlanta on Thursday, in New York on Saturday. This is a massive week.
Yeah.
This is a 4-game week. They play a bad Orlando team that they absolutely need to beat. Dallas is a surging team in the West to some degree, and that's going to be a massive Luka game. If we've seen how those have gone in the past with the Slovenian population in Cleveland, in Atlanta on the night of back-to-back, and then you get a New York team that is not good, but you get them on the road. You got to go win that game. Like, there are 2 bad teams here. You have to. I think like, if they're trying to optimize their chances here with the way Toronto's playing and everything, like a 3 out of 4 weeks seems like kind of like the goal here. But like that, I don't even know if we can confidently look at this and say, yeah, the odds of this team going like 3 and 4 in the week feels like a little ambitious for what they look like right now, at least to me.
But like, to your point, I mean, they almost have to, right? I mean, they have to start winning some of these games. I don't think there's a choice at this point. Yes, a 3 out of 4 weeks seems lofty, but I mean, what choice do you have at this point? And it's, off of, they put themselves in this position at this point.
Evan, the other side of the Knicks game, which I didn't even realize until I just looked at this, they play Philly on the second night of a back-to-back at home after they play New York on Saturday.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. Like, the Cavs have a rough draw to finish the season.
Yeah.
I think Now it's just trying to keep pace with the Raptors and hope the Raptors drop in one of their games over their last 8 or so to finish the season. But I want to ask you guys this as we head out. If you were Cleveland and it feels like the playoffs are out of reach and the play-in feels like more of a certainty, do you want to slide a little bit and avoid Brooklyn entirely and play the loser of the Brooklyn game?
No, I would much rather, if I'm the Cavs, even if it is 97-game series, having to host Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and that Brooklyn Nets team in your home arena is an experience I think you could get something out of.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
No
even if it's
experience.
Well, that's what they love talking about after all these games is like the experience they're getting from these.
I would also like to cover that game because that would be a scene.
Yeah.
Kyrie in Cleveland.
Well, maybe unless Evan gets a hold of Justin.
Yeah, Evan calls in the thing. And look, the Cavs here's the other
justice, man.
Here's just the other part of this. The Cavs are 3 games up on the Hornets right now, so they have some wiggle room there with only 8 games left. They're 2 games up on the Nets, and Kyrie can play home games now.
Yeah, it's hard.
Not implausible that like they slide and like end up being like the 8 and have to go to Brooklyn.
Oh yikes!
Oh, Brooklyn, take them in. Are you aware of the state the Cavs are in? They look like crap in their defense spins.
Look,
I'm thriving at 1:30 in the morning. You can see my cat chilling on the TV stand.
Look, this is what we do. But here we go. We're gonna wrap this up. Cavs lose again to the Bulls, 98-94, 35 points in the first half. Almost mounted the comeback in the second half. End up losing. Now 1 game back of Toronto for the 6th seed, 2 games back of the Bulls. They have the tiebreaker against Toronto. They do not have the tiebreaker against the Bulls. And dealing with us late into Sunday morning because I said you're recording with us and we did this as Marissa McNeese. Marissa, thank you so much for coming on, for talking with Evan and I, for going deep into this game. This felt to me like a big game, and it felt right to have an appropriate guest to come on and help us break it down.
Thank you so much for having me, Evan. Thank you for finally allowing me to grace this podcast. I know I was speaking of dog houses, I know I was not exactly in your favor, but thank you for allowing me to come on.
There's really like a persona non grata number 1 now for Locked On Cavs, and that's Mac Robinson. Didn't come to this game for like.
No.
Okay.
Oh no,
Mac.
I know.
Mac,
what are we doing?
He's
gonna feel bad when he wakes up tomorrow morning because he's like a first listener. He's like, I make it my first listen.
That's right.
And I'm like, because of the teacher saying that because of the tagline. He said, no, I actually do. I'm just like, oh, you're such a nice friend.
Mac's a good boy. We'll be back.
He's not a dog, Chris. Jesus.
He's a youth. I love him. I love Mac.
Such a sweetie.
Look, he filled in for me when I reenacted the bear scene from The Revenant.
So. No, when you met God. That's what we're gonna tell people is you met God. Justin Rowan had a very different interpretation of what I meant by that.
Much more fun one than was the reality. Yeah. But we'll be back. We'll be back on Tuesday after the Cavs play the Magic on Monday. So this will be your Monday episode. That should be an interesting game. I am gonna play a clip here. This is what JB Bickerstaff had to say about Jared Allen after the game. Just so you fiends out there, this is exactly what he said. Well, Marissa, thanks so much again for coming on. Evan, thanks as always for tolerating me and recording this. Everyone have a good rest of your day. Stay safe. Stay hydrated.
Stay warm.
And take very small bites. Chew your food. It's important. Okay? Especially those proteins. I learned that. It's really important.
Chris, you're really struggling to land this plane. Play the clip.
I've been struggling, brother. Here we go.
It's 10th game out. Are we any closer?
Yeah.
How much? How much closer?
I honestly can't tell you that. Again, it's bone, and it's just a matter of, how it heals and all those things. So,
has he been able to do anything, JB? I know he's still got that big splint on. Has he done anything?
Yeah, he's been able to. What we can do with him. The pain has decreased to a point where, he can start to do or has started to do more things.